right, it is July 23rd, 2025. Yesterday, July 22nd, 2025, Thursday, we had our Kentucky Citizens for Democracy, had our monthly meeting. And at this meeting, we invited prison reform expert Kyle Ellison to come in and talk about the incentive, the perverse incentives that exist with Kentucky jails, their profit motive to take ICE detainees into their jails, in many cases overcrowding their prisons. 48 of our 72 jails are overcrowded in Kentucky because of this profit incentive, these per diem payments per day that ICE gives for these Kentucky jails to take in these prisoners. So we had this expert to come in and talk about it. We had a couple of news stations there to cover it. One of them was Wave 3 and the other was WHAS. The WHAS report was very thorough. And in it, they had a response particularly about the Oldham County Detention Center from Oldham County Judge Executive David Vogel. And I'm going to read that for you because we need to make some clarifications, because I felt like there were some statements in here that were incredibly misleading. So here's what it said. This is directly from Judge Executive David Vogel. It said, the only people being held in jail are convicted of crime in the United States or somewhere and ordered by an immigration or federal judge to leave the country. We are cooperating with ICE. The Oldham County Detention Center has more inmates in it than simply ICE detained individuals. All right. So what I want to do is I want to break this down and show you all why this statement is misleading, because I think that this is one of the things, that some of the things in this statement are misconceptions that people actually believe out there. And it's very important that we clear these up. So let's take on the first part of this statement. All right. The only people being held in jail are convicted of a crime in the United States or somewhere. I don't know where or somewhere is, but anyway. All right. Now, we have no way of knowing if they have been convicted of a crime because of a lack of transparency. If you go to the Oldham County Detention Center's website and you click on current inmates on their menu, pardon me while I turn my notes here, and you go down to Jail Tracker is their software program. It's very clumsy. It's very hard to use. I would argue that it's intentionally done that way. I would argue that it's a lack of transparency. It logs you out after a few minutes. It doesn't take you back to where you were. You have to go back and find where you were. Very, very difficult to use. You have to have a lot of patience. But anyway, when you go there, you will notice that the immigration detainees that are brought in, that they have no charges below their names. We have no way of knowing why they've been brought into the Oldham County Detention Center. Could they have been charged by somebody? Could they have been charged in another county, at another detention center, and then brought in? Sure, they could have, but we have no way of knowing, right? So if you go on the Jail Tracker thing, I'm going to show you the first couple of examples. I tried to leave out names, even though this is all public record. You can go on there yourself and you can see the names. But anyway, the first couple are immigration prisoners, and you'll notice it says immigration, but there are no charges. We have no way of knowing if there are any charges or what the charges are. Now, if you go down to a couple of the homegrown criminals, one of them, the first one I'll show you is a Louisville, somebody who was picked up in Louisville. You can see their charges. Once again, I don't show you the name, but you can see their charges. You go down to one that was picked up by the Oldham County Police Department, and once again, you can see a couple of charges against them. So you know why they are being detained. They have obviously appeared before a judge, and we know why they are being detained. We have no idea on the immigration prisoners. All right, so according to the most recent data, which I'm reading here from Cato, the Cato Institute, which is a very right-wing think tank, 65% of individuals ICE has booked since October of 2024 through June 14th of this year have no criminal convictions. And according to Austin Kocher, a reporter who tracks ICE data weekly, one of the foremost experts, 33%, or 1/3, have no pending charges whatsoever. Okay? So why would the ICE prison, the detention center, the Oldham County Detention Center, that brings in immigrant prisoners from all over the Midwest in our little white vans, why would they be any exception to these numbers? If we were somehow an exception, if we were somehow an exception to these numbers, there's no way to prove it because of the lack of transparency. So when we look at that statement, the first part of Judge Vogel's statement that says the only people that are being held in jail are convicted of a crime, it just simply can't be true. If you look at the numbers, it just can't be true. All right, now, let's go to the second part of his statement. And ordered by an immigration or federal judge to leave the country. Once again, simply not true. We have seen case after case in recent months, like the case of the Tufts University student that was all over the headlines, the lady who was grabbed off the streets, who was here legally as a college student by masked ICE agents in broad daylight, did not appear before a judge, was taken straight to a Louisiana detention center, which is known for their brutality, without seeing a judge, and she was here legally. We also heard of another case recently of George's Rats, a U.S. citizen and Army veteran who was approached by ICE agents while stopped in his car. He had his windows rolled up. Even though he was yelling that he was a U.S. citizen, they smashed him in and dragged him out and stuck him in a detention center, once again without seeing a judge, for 4 days until they finally figured out that yes, indeed, he was a U.S. citizen and a former Army veteran. So if these are the type of things that are going on, how do we know that they've seen a federal judge when so many of these people have had no due process? They've not had the right to habeas corpus. They have not seen a judge. We have no way of knowing. On top of that, our jailer at the Oldham County Detention Center signed a 287G agreement with ICE under the warrant officer and jail enforcement models. Under these models, ICE trains our law enforcement officials to issue temporary warrants to detain immigrants who ICE has placed a detainer on without having to go through a judge or a magistrate. They can issue these warrants without having to go through a judge or a magistrate, which completely defeats the point of a warrant. It's really a violation of the Fourth Amendment. So part number 2, where Judge Vogel says, and ordered by a federal judge to leave the country, we have no way of knowing if they've even seen a federal judge, much less if they've been ordered to leave the country. So that is completely misleading, flat out false if you ask me. All right? And then the third statement, the Oldham County Detention Center has more inmates in it than simply ICE detained individuals. Well, no shit. All right? We know that. Okay? But let's look at the numbers. We have county, state, and federal prisoners in the Oldham County Detention Center. We have no problems with these other categories. We have an agreement with a few of the local counties where we take their prisoners. These are people who have appeared before a judge in their county. They have an arrangement with the Oldham County Detention Center to hold them because they don't have the jail space, right? But they have received due process, just like the people who have been arrested in Oldham County, who are placed in the Oldham County Detention Center, who have seen a judge and have received due process. However, when you look at the numbers being brought in because of the profit incentive, right, our numbers are completely changing. So once again, going back to the jail tracker and having the patients to go hang in there and go through it, notice that 74 people were admitted to the Oldham County Detention Center in the first 13 days of July. 45 of these prisoners were immigration prisoners, which made up 60% of the admissions in 13 days. Oldham County is obviously enjoying these federal per diem payments, and thus why the rates of immigration prisoners have gone up and up. Okay? We are enjoying that money. That's why we have these vans. We're sending them all over the Midwest. All right? Who decided that Oldham County's resources and our detention center and our vans, paid for with our tax money, would be used for what I call legalized human trafficking of immigrants so that we can make money. I don't remember fiscal court having any hearings or community input on this, because this is not the way that I want my resources used here in Oldham County. Our jail is supposed to be for our county. How in the world did we get into business? Who decided that it was our job to get into business of running immigration prisoners around when we know what is going on? We've seen the news, we've seen the headlines, we know what these ICE agents are doing, and we're profiting off of it. If you were on a street corner and somebody pointed out one of these horrendous scenes that was going on, and you saw the families being separated and the kids crying and all these scenes that we've seen videotaped on people's cell phones and all that, and somebody walked up to you and they said, hey man, guess what? I know a way that you can make some money off of this. If you took that deal, you would be one shitty human being. But yet that is what we are doing here in Oldham County and other jails across Kentucky and other jails across the country. It is immoral, and we will not stop talking about it. We will not shut up about it until people start to pay attention and we get some politicians who have a soul, because right now, none of our 8 magistrates, they seem perfectly happy with the money. They don't seem upset about it at all. They just love the revenue that's coming in. I need some people to start having a soul and start caring about their fellow human beings. That's all I got.